In the last few hours, we went all the way through the process of creating an image like San Juan. We got all the way from concept to modeling, texturing, layout, lighting, and some other stuff. And this last chapter is good for taking a resume on what we did and to point out the best advices or tips that I could give you at this point. And they can get clearer for you. So let's begin with the first chapter that talks about inspiration. So the main thing here is to have a real inspiration, to have the clearest idea you can in your head, so you can start working in your scene. And mainly because this is the cornerstone of all of the process that comes next. If we don't do this with special interest and special care, and you start wrong, you'll get bad results. Remember that success on an image is to get victorious on those little battles that you have in each process. If we start accumulating small mistakes, we'll have a bad result at the end. That's why we have to be very careful on all the processes, but especially here on the inspiration area. If we don't get this right, at some point you'll get tired of the process, or you'll just feel lazy on some details you have to do, and we'll just drop it there, and your process won't grow, and you won't grow as an artist. Now, my second advice, it's related with first one, but is to have as much reference as you can, millions if it's possible. And I don't want to exaggerate on this, but it's true. As much as you can, the better. This doesn't mean that we need the references for imitating real life or copying real life. For example, if we would be working on a cartoony project, we will use the references to get some kind of specific elements or a specific color palette. It's always great to understand what goes in the real world to get a better perspective on what we'll be doing in our specific project. I highly recommend that you make this library of references and not only have it for you, but also to share it with your teammates or with whoever it's interested in what you do. That way you get also images from them and you get a huge library, so you can have reference for any kind of project. The next advice is about modeling. My personal experience is that I suck as a modeler. I always try to look for different ways to solve the problem, the easiest way to solve the problem, because I really don't understand, or I haven't studied the orthodox way of modeling things. And this advice can go all the way to all the processes, and it's simple as find the easiest way for you to work, find the best way that accommodates you. Remember that in CGI, if it looks good, it's okay, doesn't matter the technique. Most of the time when we see an image and we get impacted by it, what matters is the image itself, not how it was done. That's a fact. So always keep your eyes open to these kind of new opportunities on solving problems. It doesn't mean that if you don't do what you saw in a tutorial or in a forum or what an expert artist told you is wrong. It's just different. If you feel comfortable with the results you get with that technique and it works for you, it's okay then. Don't worry. My next advice now goes all the way to the process of shading. Remember that when we were in this chapter, we went through the most basic characteristics of an object and how we can manage them. But I would really like to point out the one that for me it's the most important of all them. And it's about reflection and how the object reacts at the reflections. If you take a closer look, most of the objects around you have this property, reflection, and being hard to detect the reflection doesn't mean that it doesn't have it. If you always have in your mind how the objects reflect light and have reflections, I'm pretty sure you'll have each time better results on your materials and of course in your renders. And remember that even though if you don't take that much attention on it, every little step that we take on the benefit of the image will make it way better on the end once we are finishing. And in the shading area, this is a great opportunity to make your process grow, and notice that with these little steps you'll make your process better, your project better. Be very analytical on this and see how things work out in your scene. For sure you'll get better results. The next thing is to take special attention on how to do things to look less CGI and more natural, more like in the real world. It's very simple for us to notice when something is CGI or that it doesn't look as natural as it should be. As humans, we are very used to work with these kind of things, and our mind is extremely prepared to notice these small mistakes. That's why if we start to break the speculars, to add bumps or to add displacement on the objects, you'll get a better result on the naturality or the variation of the object. Remember that chaos will be always nice to have because it will make it natural for sure. And many artists, they forget about this, and remember that when you're trying to mimic real world, and we get lost on the technical side and we forgot about the chaos, the small tolerance that are in mathematics and in the real life. That's why we have to think all the time to make things natural, and we need to add chaos to break the textures, not to make them tiled. All of these things will make look that your actual objects are not made on a computer, that they are not CGI anymore. And here we have a very good example of this. The next advice comes to talk about the organization of your assets. As you can see in the scene, there are millions of polygons and there are hundreds or thousands of objects. And as you can see, this should contain a lot of textures, a lot of channels, a lot of properties, and you should be aware of that. And if you don't pay attention at this moment, these things, on the end, your scene will be a complete chaos. You should always consider that if you model something in a different scene, they will always be in a bigger one, and that you should think that you should put things in layers so you can take them in or out in an easy way to make your life better. Think about how long it would take to retexture an object or how to relight a scene. You can get as far as thinking on what will be the viewport performance of your image once you have displayed on your viewport. You should be very, very organized with this. You should take it in account from the beginning, and if you start doing this all the way from the beginning of the scene, I'm sure you'll be able to work a lot more on your scene and of course more comfortable with it, and that will make a difference. Now the next advice I would like to give you talks about the lighting. If you remember in the lighting chapter, we analyze what specific thing did each of the lights that are on the scene. And maybe the most important advice I could give you is that we should start adding lights little by little. Lighting a scene can be a process that can get very confused, and mainly because you have to take account a lot of things for starting the scale, gamma, textures, the mood, the if it's open, if it's closed, the camera, the exposure, and of course a lot of things. If we had too many lights on your scene and there's something that you don't like, you'll get completely lost and you don't know what's really making this thing not good. But if you go step by step and take special attention on what each light is doing and approve that for yourself, you'll have even better and faster results than you'll expect. I've seen a lot of artists getting lost in this process, and it's really very, very frustrating. So again, do this little by little, understand what each light is doing, and that way you for sure know what's happening on your scene. The next advice, it's about the post-production process. Now here you notice this is the final 3D render. You'll find it in the San Juan scene file. And that's exactly the result you'll get if you just hit F9 on the scene inside Max. So let's talk about the post-production. There's a big difference on having this scene that looks pretty good to have a scene that looks like this. It's very important for you to put the adequate time on post-production. Once you have your 3D scene, you have to analyze which process can be done in post-production, or can be simpler, or can enhance the image. There are many processes that are faster and a lot more in control for you in softwares like Photoshop, Fusion, Combustion, After Effects, or whatever software that can let you manipulate an image or an image sequence. That's why I pointed out so badly this process. And it's because in these processes where most of the artists put their signature on their work. It's very important because they define the way they want the things to look like. So again, put as many effort as you can in the post-production and pay a lot of attention to the details there. You can fix a lot of things. The next advice, it could be a little bit side of everything, but it's very important and gratifying for you as an artist. And it's that don't be afraid to put your work on internet. Feel free to post it in the forums, and whatever feedback you can get will be very valuable for you. Remember that we as an artist sometimes we get in a loop in the image, so you don't see the mistakes or the things that you have to enhance. Remember that it's very good to have feedback and comments from other guys that have different eyes from you. And don't be afraid, there are a lot of forums up there on the internet that can help you. Be aware of all the forums, take a look around, and also take a look at the galleries. For sure will help. It's always a good practice to look at the images, compare yourself with the beat guys, and look for images that work as eye candy for you. At the end, this advice is for you to grow as an artist. Finally, feel free to contact me. Here it's all my contact information. You can find my web if you want some feedback or any advice, whatever. Feel free to do it. Here you have my site. Also, I'll be trying to put some small tutorials or things that are interesting for you. Really, don't hesitate to contact me anytime you need some help or whatever you might have on your hands. I hope all the way we went for the creation of the San Juan image will bring you better renders, and I hope you really learned something. And for sure, feel free to contact me anytime. I'm completely open to any comment or whatever suggestions you might have. Thanks so much for watching.